Welcome to the Prosperity and Beyond podcast. I'm Michelle Samper, your mindset and manifestation coach, here to help you create your dream life from the inside out. In this space, we dive deep into self image, mindset shifts, manifestation, meditation, and universal laws so you can align with your highest timeline and fully step into your authentic power. This is your sacred space to trust your intuition, raise your vibration, and unlock prosperity and freedom from within. Say it with me. I am prosperity and beyond. Welcome back, everyone. We are on episode 7. Today is July 30th, 2025. I have so much to share with you. And today's episode is all about me telling my story. And the reason why is because it's bringing me back to the I am worthy. That every version of you is worthy. I am worthy. All versions of you are worthy. All versions of me are worthy. So today we're going to talk about how it all began, my spiritual awakening, really getting deep into my story because I know it's going to relate to you and give you the inspiration and momentum to keep going. So let's start with 2017. Michelle, that was the most difficult year of my life. And I want to say this because my life has shifted so much into something I only dreamed of back in 2017. Since doing this inner work, my life has only gotten better and better and better. And the evidence of how the law of attraction works and manifestation has only gotten more potent because I've seen the results consistently. And I look back and I'm like, wow, look at the life I am creating. I have created. But let's rewind to 2017. So this was the most difficult year of my life. And I really want to speak to her because some of you might be going through some similar things or have and are looking for inspiration or how does it get better or can it get better? And yes, it can. In 2017, I was in an abusive relationship and all the terrible things happened to me. And I'm not going to go into detail, but it brought me to this severe depression and feeling of unworthiness. And I know a lot of the situation that happened occurred because I never healed. I went from relationship to relationship, getting hurt and never healing. Never I was always looking for the person to heal me or the person to make it better, the person to complete me, I guess, in a way. And I took that pain from past relationships and I just pushed it down and I I just wanted it so bad. I was chasing it. And I didn't listen to the red flags. I mean, in a way I did because that relationship only lasted 3 months of my life, but it was the most difficult 3 months of my life. And I remember after that relationship crying myself to sleep every single night and feeling depressed and feeling like a low life, basically. And that was the year. So in 2016, I graduated from my undergrad degree. And so that year, I was in my in between year and I really wanted to go to grad school. But I remember feeling like I'm not good enough. I remember looking at my GRE scores and saying, this is not enough. And I didn't even apply. For a whole year, I didn't even apply. And my dream was to go to grad school. My dream was to become a speech therapist. My dream was this is going to happen. And I remember feeling so like, I can't do this. I can't do this. And I can't get into grad school. I said, I'm never going to date again. I remember just giving up. I think I hit so much rock bottom that I had to just tune into me and enough was enough. And what really started to help me, because this is not even to the spiritual journey yet. So that's why you're not hearing any of that. This is the rawness of my story. I went to Disney that year in 2017 60 times, right? I was working in the school system. And after work, I would go to Disney. And that is actually what helped heal me. And looking back on a spiritual level, I was healing my inner child. I was doing things that brought me joy. I was choosing myself and I was doing something that excited me. And Disney healed me. It was part of my healing process. And so during that time of like healing and having fun and just saying I'm never going to date again and letting it all go, I met my now fiance Carlos, and it was just amazing. Like, he was the opposite of anyone I've ever dated. He allowed me to take things slow. He made me feel safe. And if you see me get emotional during the session, it's not because of this pain that I went through or this whatever trauma. It's because of the level of gratitude I have sitting here in 2025 on July 30th because of the life I've created and the changes I've made and how I've seen life only get better and better. And now that I'm in my power and I create from the inside out, I don't experience those things anymore. I just have immense gratitude. But this is why I need to share it, because some people have gone through this or they're going through things and they're like, does it get better? Can it get better? And I'm here to let you know that it can. And especially when you're doing this inner work and you start to get to know who you are on a soul level. I started to believe in myself again, and I applied to grad school and I got it, and I moved to Miami. But this was still like an unhealed version of me because I was on the healing journey and things were getting better and better already, without even the awakening, because I hit rock bottom and I could only accept what was good for me because I was so sensitive, if that makes sense. So I moved to Miami and I became like a workaholic during grad school because I was in grad school full time and I was working full time. And I was driving from Orlando to Miami long distance because of the relationship. So I was just go, 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 because I was living for the goal. I wasn't living for myself fully like I do today. Because now my goal that I have, I work with Brian Proctor, he's my mentor, is one with my heart, one with my vision, one with my purpose. I've gotten very clear on who I am today. I was a workaholic, so I was chasing, chasing, chasing. And so that goal meant so much to me, completing my master's, getting my speech language pathology license. And back in 2020, I had my internship. So I was in grad school for 2 years, and then my internships started to come up, and I wanted to do them in Orlando so that I could be closer to Carlos. So, and that's where I was going to move back anyways, back home. So I moved back in with my parents and I was like, this will be fine. I'll be busy doing my internships. I'll always be out. But the pandemic happened. And so this was supposed to be for 2 semesters and then I was going to be done. And so everything shut down. And I was with my family and I was about to finish one of the biggest goals I've ever had in my life. And that was the first time I ever looked inward and I asked myself, what am I doing? Who am I? What makes me happy? And I achieved that goal that August 2020. I achieved it. It was done. And then I felt empty. All that momentum, being a workaholic and really focusing and excelling. I had a 3.95 GPA in my master's degree. I was like in it, because I took all that pain and I just hyper focused on what I wanted. And it happened. It happened, right? But it wasn't from the question that I asked my clients, and what I focus on now is, if there was no lack or limitation, what would you want? And I couldn't even answer that at the time because I didn't even know who I was. I remember just going to work all day, and then I would get out of work and then I would go to the library and I would be there till 11 or 12 o'clock at night. And then I would drive back home, take a bath or shower, and then do it all over again. Like, I was so in the like, just get it done. I never took time to pause. I never took time to breathe. I never took time to just connect to who I am. And I lost myself through the chasing. So in 2020, I had that spiritual awakening. I feel like there was this one New Year's where I went to Disney, went to Epcot, and I met this girl. It was my friend's friend. And she has this gift to speak with spirit, with past loved ones. And she shared it. And, before I was like, oh, that's, I don't know. I don't believe in that, or that's weird, or like, is it real? And I believed her. I believed her so much. I went home and I told my family and I said, there's so much more. And when we pass, it's not the end. And, I grew up Catholic and everything, so I always kind of knew and believed in heaven, but I didn't know how it worked, but I believed her. That was the point. And that ignited a gift in my sister, which I think she already had, to connect with past loved ones. So she ended up seeing my grandfather in my parents' house in full body form and told us. And that triggered, I'm more than just this physical being, I am spiritual. And I was like, whoa. So all this was happening during the pandemic. And then TikTok happened. And I was on there. And I think during the pandemic, how old was I? Like 28 years old. So I wasn't posting or anything like that. I was just watching stuff. And I ran into this psychic who did readings and tarot. And I was like, oh, let me get a reading. And at first I was just like, I don't know what got me to do it. I just was like, I want to do this. And the reading really came through with, it's time to heal. And that was like my main focus. The main thing I got from the reading was, it's time to heal. I went on this healing journey. Healing, 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 healing. And she's like, buy yourself something. Do something for yourself. And I bought my car. And I got my first job as a speech therapist. And then after 2020 was finished, the spiritual awakening start to unfold, right? The healing start to happen. I start to realize who I was. I'm not just this physical being. And then the manifestations started to come in. Back in 2021, I moved in with Carlos, bought this condo. That was a manifestation. And our relationship is flourishing, getting better and better. After that, we manifested our dream trip, or my dream trip. I didn't know at the time, to Hawaii. We went to Hawaii in 2021. We went to Maui, we went to Waikiki, Oahu. It was the most beautiful, dreamiest trip I've ever been on in my whole entire life. And still to this day, it's the most magical trip I've been on. I remember leaving and crying because I said, I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave. I love Hawaii. The most magical memory there was swimming with the turtles. This wasn't a planned experience. I went into the ocean. We stayed at the Sheraton in Maui. That was the second island that we went to. And there were rocks and people were jumping off the rocks, but near the rocks, there were sea turtles. And you're not supposed to touch them, so don't touch them, just so you guys know. But they were swimming around me. They were floating around me and they were going one with the current. And it taught me in that moment that go with the flow, ease yourself in life, be one with the flow of life. Stop holding on so hard, stop trying so hard, stop forcing, stop chasing, and be. And that was a spiritual experience for me. And one of them even like touched, it came and touched me. So from my back, so it wasn't me touching it. But oh, what a magical, beautiful experience. And the sunsets there, and the views, and the ocean, and the snorkeling, and the food, and the culture. And we did the road to Hana and the waterfall, the 400-foot waterfall that we saw. I started to manifest travel. I started to manifest travel with connecting with nature, and it started to happen with ease. So easy for me. It's just travel, 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 beach, beach, beach. It just kept coming in, these opportunities to travel like crazy. And I didn't grow up doing this. And then I start to realize about manifestation, right? The laws of the universe, law of attraction. And I dove deeper into it and through this spiritual awakening. And that's when in 2022, I manifested going to Greece as a surprise. I was into real estate at the time because I was still kind of chasing, right? I wanted financial freedom. And I was like, what can I do to leave speech therapy? Because I knew at that time, already in 2022, 2 years after my master's, but I've been working in the field since 2017. So it wasn't something like new for me. I was just at a higher rank with my master's degree. So in 2022, gifted me in 2022, Carlos gifted me a real estate book. And I still want to invest in real estate. I just don't want to become a realtor. That was a path I had to learn too, where I wanted to be a realtor so I could invest in real estate so I could be financially free. It's like I never wanted to be a realtor. I do want to invest in real estate. I used to think I had to do things that I didn't want to do to get to where I want to go. And that's not the case. So that was a lesson that I learned along the way. Fun fact. But he handed me this book, and on page 222, I opened it. There were tickets to Greece. And I was like in shock because, like, a year before this, I think I discovered Manifestation Babe. She has a podcast, and she went to Greece. And I remember watching the videos, and I was like, that would never be me. I wish I was in that wish energy. But I kept working on myself. I kept doing the inner work. I kept learning about manifestation. I kept investing in myself. And actually, I invested that year in my first life coach. So I was part of a community and working with my first life coach. I fell in love with manifestation because manifestation is something we've done our whole life. It's just the awareness. So I really fell in love with the awareness of manifestation, intuition, and the awareness of who I am on a spiritual soul level, because that's what manifestation really is, because we're always attracting all the time since we were born. So we went to Greece, and we first got to Athens, and then from Athens, we flew straight to Crete. And the only reason why I knew I wanted to go to Crete was because of her videos. I saw them and I said, look at that beach. I want to go. I want to go. So we booked that plane ride to go to Crete, which is the largest island in Greece. And this was the most beautiful, magnificent place I've ever seen in my life. The most beautiful beaches, the most crystal clear water I've ever seen in my entire life. And it was like a dream. The first hotel we stayed at, I loved. It was this infinity pool overlooking the ocean with breakfast and like honeycomb for breakfast. It was just amazing. And we rented a car and we would drive to these beautiful beaches and hike. And oh my goodness. So we stayed at that hotel, and then we went to this most luxury hotel I've ever stayed in my whole entire life. I had my own private plunge pool. And I was like, what is happening? That's how you know when you manifest, you look in front of your reality and you're like, what the fuck? Like, what is happening? I manifested this. If it's in your reality, you manifested it. If it's something you like, you manifested it. If you something you don't like, you manifested it. You manifest your reality. So I started to be like, whoa, this manifestation thing is real, real. Not only I went to Greece, this is the experiences I'm having. This is how it's happening. I just felt like, whoa, on cloud nine. So that's what happens is you start to manifest, these things come into your reality. Your belief grows stronger, and then it gets easier to manifest because you're like, it's done. And you believe because you've already done other things. You've already seen evidence. You already know how it works. So the power of belief, it increases with the more you manifest on purpose. After that, we went to Paros, which is another beautiful island. We took a ferry there, I think. Yeah, we took a ferry there. We didn't even rent a car on this island. We rented a four-wheeler. So that was what we drove to the hotel and to the restaurants and around the island. Was driving in the four-wheeler, and I would just stop at the beach and jump into the ocean. This is like a dream trip. I'm telling you, we were there for 10 days. Paris is beautiful. The sunsets, I actually liked it more than Mykonos because that's where we went to next. Because Mykonos is beautiful, but it's just like a more touristy Paros, and it was too party vibe for me. And I'm not about the partying. I'll have a drink, but there was this Sky 180 bar. That was my favorite thing. It was like this view with a DJ. We had our drinks, and we're overlooking all of Mykonos during sunset. The vibes. I will never trade that experience for anything. That was impeccable. This trip was amazing. I'm telling you guys. And the best part, I didn't even let you guys know yet, but I got engaged in Greece. So not only I manifested this trip and all the things I'm talking about, we got engaged in Crete, in the secluded, like overlooking the Mediterranean Sea in Crete, on a mountain overlooking the ocean. I was like, life is unreal. I'm manifesting my dream partner. I'm manifesting these dream vacations. And not only am I manifesting this in my external reality, I am falling in love with myself. I'm getting to know who I am. I'm choosing myself. And at that time, I was still a full-time speech language pathologist. And I was working with my life coach and I had this epiphany. I went to one of her events and I had this download and I had this inner knowing. I am a coach. I am a coach. I decided, and I just was crying and crying and crying and crying and crying and crying. Like, I'm meant to do this. I'm meant to help and teach and channel and educate and speak from within. I'm meant to activate prosperity within others as I activate it within myself. I claimed it and I became it. And that was in 2023. Yeah, in 2023, the end of 2023, I claimed it and I said, this is what I'm doing. And so I start to shift and do things differently in my life. I went from full-time speech therapist in the clinic to I start shifting to teletherapy to create more balance. I start shifting to part-time to create more balance. And in January 2024, I started my business, Prosperity and Beyond. And actually, this is a relaunch of my podcast. I had a podcast and it was called Make It Happen with Michelle, because that was the energy that I was like really into before. Like I had to make things happen. So that was where my beliefs were. And so that was during like 2021, 2022. And the podcast shifted into Prosperity and Beyond. I changed the name because I changed. And I think it got deleted somehow on Anchor or something like that. And I was upset. But it happened in divine reason. That was the old version of me. And this is the new version of me. This is the relaunch. This is Michelle 2.0. This is the higher version of me who's done all this inner work and is here to share this part of me. And so back to 2024, I launched my first workshop. And I was so afraid to do this, but I did it. Fear versus intuition. Intuition is this heart center knowing of what you're supposed to do. And fear can rush in because you're doing something you've never done before to become the version of you who you've never been, but you're meant to be. And so, but my intuition was getting so strong that I had no choice but to listen to her. I'm listening to my intuition. I'm no longer listening to the fear of the paradigm, and I'm taking action. That's why I loved working with my own life coach, because she was really just giving me permission to do what I already wanted to do intuitively. And it's just kind of like a cheerleader, because all the answers are within you. All the answers are within you. So as that unfolded, I started to focus on my business, posting on TikTok, creating workshops. I discovered more of my intuitive gifts that I channel. And I just felt called. On my last podcast, I did a meditation and I had an intuitive nudge to not plan it. So that's where I really started to do meditations that were not planned. So then I would have sessions that I would do on Zoom, and I would have people come in and meditate through my guided meditations. They were activating people, they were healing people. Some people would come out crying, but because they're just releasing. So I've started to tune into my intuition with my channeling and my higher self, and this rawness of just speaking and channeling my higher self, what I'm doing right now, and start to unfold. And now I am a full-time entrepreneur and mindset manifestation coach. So I've worked one-on-one with people, I've done workshops, and I'm really shifting more into my podcast and my online digital course that I'm creating called Prosperity and Beyond. And I'll be sharing more about that soon. But I've learned more about myself in the past 5 years than I have in my whole entire life, because that's my mission. Now, once you get started on this journey of discovering who you are, you can't stop. It just becomes like your daily life. It becomes part of your paradigm. I'd even talk about the people and the influences of who I focused on and who I learned from. At the end of 2022, I went to my first Abraham Hicks workshop. I started listening to her and I started to realize that she channels, and I didn't know that. I just resonated with what she was speaking. I felt it on an energetic level. It resonated with my heart space and it felt activating. It felt like truth. It felt like I was meant to listen to it at that moment. The more I discovered who I am, the more she resonated with me. And whenever I was having doubt and whenever I was trying to make a big decision, especially with leaving my job or shifting like what I was doing in my job, I would listen to her. Because a lot of the times in manifestation, we're taught to not chase, to attract, but we're not taught to don't escape. And what I was trying to do is if I escape my job, then I'll feel better, then I'll attract more. And that's not how we manifest. We focus on what we do want, and we become one with it, and we act like that version, and we talk like that version of us. And then we attract that life because we become him or her. Abraham Hicks, I think, helped me connect more with my higher self because I saw her that first time. It was an eye opening experience listening to what she had to say. And then I went to go see her again the following year. I've seen her to this date 3 times live. And I just saw her, when did I just see her? Like a few months ago. All time is like all over the place for me now. Because all we have is right now. All we have is right now, the eternity of now. So I like to focus on the present moment so much. So everything feels like a blur to me because I love to connect with right here, right now. But if you haven't listened to Abraham Hicks and you're on a spiritual journey, listen to what she has to say. She's going to help you connect to your higher self. And the second workshop I went to, she unlocked my higher self. I think she brings in this frequency because she's connecting with a higher consciousness that allows you to match that or to open up yours when you allow it. And this goes for everything and everyone. When you're around high vibrational people, you can come to that frequency and match it, or you don't, You don't have to. You become one with the frequency and what you focus on. So what you replay over and over again, what you hear, what you listen to on a frequency level, you become, because it's your focus is your creation. So she was a big part of my journey. I actually have 2 of her books in front of me, Ask and It Is Given and Money and the Law of Attraction, and they're both signed. I have them actually, and I have the real estate books right in front of me too, the Multifamily Millionaire, because I wanted to get into real estate investing, and I still do. 90% of millionaires are investing, but that's not where I want my main source of income to come from. That's where I want to put my money, doing what I love. And so I got clear on that. So also last summer, I think around June, July, I re-listened to The Secret. And I've listened to it before, but this time I feel like I was just a different energetic match to what was being said. And I really resonated with Bob Proctor. And it was this weird feeling. And I don't want to say weird. I only say weird because it was an unfamiliar feeling that I had where I felt drawn to keep listening to him and listening to everything that he has. And I was like looking him up and I was like, who is this person? I felt this energy, this connection, and I didn't know why. I just knew I needed to hear him. I knew I needed to connect with him on his work. And at that time, I didn't know he wasn't alive anymore. And I found out that he passed away in 2022. When I would listen to him, I felt like I knew him. And when I listened to him, I felt like I was grieving him, like I was sad. And what was interesting is I felt like maybe I was missing a part of myself. He was reminding me of the part I was missing of myself because he's reminding me who I am. But it was deeper than that. So I had this urge because I work with White Wolf and I feel like he'll eventually be on my podcast. He's one of the psychic mediums I've been working with since maybe a year and a half ago. And he helped me understand my connection with Bob Proctor. And at first I felt crazy because this is like, what is going on? And who am I to connect with someone like this? And blah, 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 blah. But basically, White Wolf told me that I've had thousands of past lives with Bob Proctor, that he is here to guide me, that he is here as a spirit guide in my life because of what I'm here to do on this planet Earth. And that made sense because before I knew about him, I knew what I wanted. I knew I wanted to speak, and I knew I wanted to go on stage, and I knew I wanted to teach, and I didn't know about him. The lesson that came through when I first started to connect with him was, I'm not worthy of this. I'm not worthy of this. And what came through that is that I am worthy of this. There's no competition We are all connected to unlimited potential, and nobody is better than us. Nobody is worse than us. We are all connected one consciousness to infinite. It's about making a decision. He taught me that just because he manifested millions, just because he was well known, just because he did A, B, or C, doesn't make him better or more worthy. And I think this is what this podcast is all about. This is what my business is all about, is I am worthy. That all versions of you are worthy. That all versions of me are worthy. That's why I'm speaking about the past, to give you a little taste that my life hasn't always been rainbows and butterflies. I'm here to let you know that it can get better and better and better, that every version of you is worthy, that you are creating your dream life when you decide that you are, that you attract based on your consciousness. What are you going to focus on? Are you going to do the inner work? Are you going to fall in love with yourself? Are you going to speak to yourself in love? Are you going to see the love and prosperity within you? You have everything it takes to create your dream life. Live from the end. See your goal, your desire here. Act as him or her now. Show up as the highest version of you. Make a decision that this is the life that you're going to live. Live out your dream. That you're going to be one with your dream. That you're not going to just fly by. That you're not going to just go through the motions. You're going to become one with the greatest part of you. Every single day, through decision, through choice, through connection to this higher mantle. Make a decision. You're God's highest form of creation. Trust yourself, trust your intuition, get to know yourself, tune in, meditate daily, move your body, make a decision, create a goal that is heart-centered and scares you at the same time, but also inspires you. Become him or her. You have everything it takes. I am prosperity and beyond. I love you so much. And as always, happy manifesting. Thank you for listening to another episode of Prosperity and Beyond. I want to end the episode with some affirmations, so repeat after me and let's get tuned in. I am the creator of my reality. I am right on time. I am energetically aligned to prosperity. I create multiple streams of income. I love who I am. I love all versions of me. All versions of me are worthy. I am worthy. Feel it in your heart space. Again, I am worthy. I am worthy of it all. I am prosperity and beyond. I love you.